So, good morning, everybody. Glad that you're all here. Welcome to July. Welcome to summer. An exciting day for sure. We're continuing our Zoomcast series, and we're going to talk about benefits branding today. Before we do that, again, on behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust, I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much. Joining us today from the Benefits Trust, Rob Crowder is running things behind the scenes, and Carrie Lane is here as well. Mike Ignatz is in the house. If you've got a question throughout the session today, put up your little hand emoji so it'll show up on my screen, or put it in the chat box so everybody can see your question, and either Mike or Carrie or Rob will be able to answer that for you. For signing up for today, Mike is going to send you the coveted CE credit following this session. So thank you very much, Mike, for doing that. He's also going to send out the slide deck. And you're also going to get a real short survey. Fill it out. Tell us how we did today. Tell us how we can do it better tomorrow, and so on. Also, there's an opportunity to put in future subjects you'd like to see in Zoomcasts. So we appreciate your feedback, without a doubt. And it really literally takes 90 seconds, so it doesn't take long. These Zoomcasts we've been doing for some time now. And the idea behind these Zoomcasts is not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being in a room where everybody gets smarter. And speaking of which, I am not an expert on branding. By any stretch of the imagination, I am not an expert on branding. I am just someone that likes to observe things. And I want to share with you some of my observations and some of my thoughts on these observations. But you can literally spend your entire career being an expert on branding. And we could spend days and days and days in a seminar on branding, but this is really just my opinion and where I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. So let me share my screen right now and let's get into this. So let me push a couple of buttons here and let's get into it. Everybody can see that. I want to change that. There we go. So benefits branding. And again, I'm not an expert, but this is just my opinion. Our agenda today is about the Benefits Trust because it's through this lens that we'd like to explore this topic of branding. I want to talk about what is a brand examples, of course, why branding matters, personal brand. I want to touch on that, and question, answers, and discussions. We're going to finish up right at 11 o'clock sharp. If you've got to leave, we understand that, and that's great. Mike will send you that CE credit and the slide deck and so on. But if you've got a few minutes and you want to stick around and continue the conversation and go into more specifics, we can certainly do that. So we're here, for as long as it takes. So that's what we want to talk about today. So a little bit about the Benefits Trust, and again, it's about through this lens we will explore. We started on January 1st, 1994, so we've been around for some time. We're a full-service third-party benefit administration company. We're the largest independently owned TPA in Canada. In 2024 and 2025, we were named a top employer in the benefits and pension business. We were also a top provider in 2024, and in 2025, late in 2025, late last year, we were very excited to win an award from Benefit and Pension Monitor magazine on our technology, specifically on our app that we use, and we've got tens of thousands of users on our app, and we just keep on getting more and more improvements are coming down the pipe with our app. So we're very excited about that. What we do is through advisors like you, we provide custom employee benefit solutions. We've surveyed our clients, our marketing company surveyed our clients recently, and we've got like a 97% feedback of exceptional client experience. We've got long-term relationships with all the major insurance carriers and service suppliers, and our target market is you. We work with advisors like you, with clients from primarily 1 to 100. We've got a lot of clients that are larger than that, but our target market is 1 to 100. And people ask, why is that your target market? Why are you dealing with just smaller cases? And I'm saying, well, 80% of our cases are like that because, quite frankly, in Ontario alone, there's 450,000 businesses with 1 to 100 employees. So that's where the market is, and that's where the market is in Canada, and that's what really Canada is made up of a whole bunch of small businesses. So this is again where we're coming from and how we're going to explore branding. What is a brand? What is a brand? Well, when you type into the AI search engine, if you would. And I'm not technically I am technically challenged, so I don't know if it's called a search engine or what, but when you type it into AI, a brand is an overall identity and reputation of a company, product, or organization, and reflects how people recognize, perceive, and feel about it. And when we were putting this presentation together and thinking about it, sort of what I do is we get the slides and we work through the slides and we come up with what we think is a good presentation, and then I think about it and I come back to it and I think about it and I come back to it and I think about it and I come back to it. And the overall theme that I came up with over the last couple of days is a brand really doesn't make it easier to sell your services. A brand doesn't make it easier to sell your services. A brand makes it easier for people to buy your services. And I think there's a little bit of a difference there. And we're going to touch on that throughout the presentation today, but let's just let that resonate for a few minutes. Brand doesn't make it easier for you to sell your services to your end user client. It makes it easier for them to buy your services. So that's what we want to explore today. And every company has a brand. Everybody out there has a brand. Just like everybody out there in the province of Ontario, and I'm only talking about Ontario right now, has a will. People say, geez, I got to do my will. And I go, why? You have one. And they look at me confused and they go, no, I don't have a will. And I go, oh, yes, you do. And right now it's written by the, Ontario provincial government. And they decide what happens to your state should you pass away. And if you don't have a will that you are in control of, they've written the will for you. So just like that, in that sort of train of thought, every company has a brand. And you, as an advisor or an independent advisor, you're your own business. You're your own company, or you work with a company. But if you don't have a brand, you have a brand, and that's your brand, having not having a brand. And the question that I have is, do you want to be in control of your brand, or do you want others to define what your brand is? Because others might have very different opinion on what you want it to be. Just like your will that you haven't written. The Ontario government has written it for you, and they have their opinion on how your estate is going to be divvied up. Now, if you don't have a brand, others are going to define what your brand is. So let's keep that in mind. And the brand is much more than a logo. A brand is much more than a logo. Yes, there's a name and visual identity. There's logo, colors, design, packaging, etc. There's a message and positioning. What your company stands for and how it communicates. There's a customer experience, how they feel when they interact with the company. The reputation, what customers, employees, and the market says about your brand. And I think the most important thing is trust and expectations, right? The promise people associate with it. The promise people associate with it. And the first thing that came to mind when, um, when I was thinking about this particular point, trust and expectations, the promise that people associate with it. And you think about Four Seasons hotels. Many of you may have stayed at Four Seasons hotels from time to time, or Ritz-Carlton hotels. The trust and expectations, right? The trust and expectations that are associated with it. There's a certain element you pay a premium price, without a doubt, for those types of experience, but you expect and trust that those experiences, that promise is going to come true. And it was really interesting. Michelle and I, my wife and I, last November were in northern France and Belgium, and we were doing a battlefield tour. And we stayed at a Relais and Chateau hotel. And we booked it specifically because it was a Relais and Chateau hotel. And when we got there, it was far from it. So the promise and the people associated with it and the expectations were not met. And we were really taken back by it. And we weren't the happiest people in the world. Well, it was fine. It was great, but it wasn't what we expected. And my wife more specifically wrote a letter to Relais and Chateau, or an email to Relais and Chateau, their sort of head office, and carefully, laid out what we thought or what the expectations of Relais and Chateau should be, and we got it right off their website and so on, and how this property didn't meet their requirements. And the The email back and the conversations back were fascinating, and it was excellent. But again, trust and expectations. Trust and expectations. When I think of brand, I think of trust and expectations. Common expectations, brand versus logo. A logo is what people see. A brand is what people remember and believe. And, Rob got this slide. I don't know where he got it, but it's an awesome slide because it's got all of these brands on it. And you're looking at your screen, I'm looking at my screen, and things pop off the screen. There's the McDonald's, the classic golden arches. You can see, or you may not see, depending on what your eyes do. Roots Canada or Roots. You think of Roots and what people remember about Roots and what they believe about Roots. And yeah, they were draft dodgers that came up from the U.S. and started this great company in Canada. And it's recognized. People buy their products from around the world. John Deere. John Deere is actually a German company that I found out recently, but quality. I think of John Deere, I think of green and yellow, I think of quality products, etc. The Toronto Blue Jays logo is in there somewhere, and you think of the Toronto Blue Jays and you sell out crowds and Looney Tuesdays and winning teams, and not so much this season, but Quaker Oats. There's a Quaker Oats, the Quaker Oats guy, long-term quality, etc. So the brand is what people remember and believe. Right. So the question is, if you don't have a brand, what do you want people to remember and want people to believe? Well, they're going to form their own opinion. So be in control of your brand. Be in control of your brand. So Nike, it's iconic. You know, it's an iconic brand. Um, it is very much an iconic brand. But the other thing is, it's a new brand compared to something like Quaker Oats that's been around since what, the 1850s or something. But Nike is a relatively new brand. What's it been around for? 25 years, 30 years? I don't know. But it's a relatively new company, but it's iconic. When you think of Nike, you think, I don't know what you think about when you think of Nike, but when I think of Nike, I think of just do it. I think it's been the best slogan ever. Just do it. Just get off your couch and do it. Buy a pair of Nike shoes and start walking. Then you can turn into running. Then you can turn into what you want to be. I also think of Michael Jordan. And if anybody's seen the Michael Jordan Nike movie on Netflix, it's phenomenal. Oh, maybe not phenomenal. It's good. Right? Let's call it what it is. It's good. Um, but it's that name, the Swish logo, the recognizable style, you know, you got this intimate connection with the company. Nike's message focuses on motivation, achievement, pushing personal limits, captured well within its "no one just do it" slogan. Again, it's just like it's so easy. Just do it. People associate Nike with performance, innovation, and athletes and success. Nike builds its brand on product designs and athlete partnership, advertising, roles, stores, and digital experiences. You know, over time, over time, customers think of Nike as quality, style, athletic performance. All of the people in the room here today, how many people are here right now? Where's my number? We've got 62 people on the call right now. How many people have owned a pair of Nike shoes at some point in their life? Well, I'm pretty sure all of you have, or most of you have, right? But it wasn't really based on price, it was based on something else. You bought those Nike shoes because probably quality, style, innovation, performance, it's more than just a logo. A logo is just part of it. It's the brand. It's the brand. It's more than just a shoe company. Nike's brand is built around ideas, emotions, experiences that people associate their company with. I've got Nike golf shirts. I've got Nike golf shoes, or I had Nike golf shoes. I've got Nike jackets that I've worn over the years. The brand is what people, Nike is a brand. When people hear Nike, they think of more than just shoes. They think of all sorts of things. They think of a lifestyle, right? So really, again, think about that. Think about Nike when you're thinking about your brand. Think about Apple. Again, a relatively new company compared to things like Quaker Oats, compared to companies like John Deere. It's a relatively new company. But what do you think of when you think of Apple? I think personally, I think of cool products. I think of cool stores. I think of cool launch meetings that I've seen on YouTube. I think of logos design, the Apple's design, its clean design, it's consistent across all of its products. It's easily recognizable. It's instantly recognizable. It's featured in movies like Forrest Gump. I invested in a fruit company and now I don't have to worry about money anymore. Yeah, Apple. Right? Um, there's a purpose and a message. Apple's focus is on innovation, creativity, simplicity, making technology easier for people to use. Making technology easier for people to use. I use an Apple computer. I have an Apple iPhone. I've had iPads over the years. The customer perception is people associate Apple with premium quality, reliability, design, and seamless user experience. I just got a new phone. Like 2 weeks ago, I got a new phone and I went into the Rogers store to, transfer my old phone to my new phone. And all of the data that was in my old phone was transferred over and I was, out the door in 15 minutes. And it was just an amazing, seamless. And now the new phone is faster and better, etc. The experience, it creates a brand through products, retail stores, advertising, software, ecosystems, customer service, all of those things, right? Its reputation. You know, Apple has built a trust with people. They've built a trust with people and they've built a buzz around their products. People stand in line. People stand in line. We're not talking about price here. Apple products are often considerably more expensive than other products, but people stand in line to get the newest best thing. They've created this aura about them that is extraordinary. The computer that I'm using right now, yeah, I can buy a way cheaper computer. I've got an Apple Pro, I don't even know what it is, but it's a great computer. And I've never had any issues with it, knock on wood. Um, but it's shaped by the qualities and the people associated with the company, their creativity, innovation, premium experience, design, etc. They've spent billions of dollars on their stores and billions of dollars on their brand. But it's paid off. It's paid off in the long run. One of the richest companies in the world, right? And it's amazing. So when we think about those iconic brands, you think about companies like Nike, you think about companies like Apple. And if I had all of you in a room and I put just the swoosh up and I said, "What company is this?" You'd all say Nike. If I put a slide up with the Apple logo on it, you go, "It's Apple." It's easy. But let's bring it down. Let's bring it down from, okay, great. We don't have $1 billion to spend on our branding. So, let's talk about it, closer to home. You're an independent insurance advisor. Mike, do you have a question or you popped up there? Sorry. You're an independent advisor and what's your brand? Well, I didn't ask Dave permission. Dave, you're on the call, right?
I am, and you did not.
I did not ask permission, but Dave, Mainstay Insurance. We all know Dave. Dave's an iconic guy in our business. Started Mainstay Insurance. How many years ago, Dave?
Just over 30.
30 years ago, but in the last decade, he started CGIB.
Just over
Started
20 years ago.
20
22
years ago.
years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it started off with breakfast meetings at Shopsy's on Woodbine Avenue in Toronto, or Markham, I guess. But um, anyways, Mainstay Insurance Brokerage. I was, putting these slides together. I didn't ask Dave permission. I just threw them in there. But Mainstay's kind of an iconic brand. It's iconic brand in his world, in Dave's world. He's created his brand. He's controlled his brand. And the M on Mainstay looks like two sales to me. Not sales as in SALES, SAILS. Yes, so two, sailboat sales. But Mainstay Insurance Brokerage. It's consistent, right? And you can read all this, but it's got this identity. It's got purpose and it's got messaging, right? It's got customer perception. And one of the things that's interesting about this, and I was looking at this as well as experience and reputation. But Dave's target market is not Vancouver. Can someone tell me by looking at this logo and this main page off of his website what his target market is? Well, guess what? We all know it's the GTA. Right? It's the GTA. That's the target market. So it's not, when you look at Nike, it's worldwide. When you look at Apple, it's worldwide. When you look at Dave and his branding, it's Toronto. And absolutely love his value statement. We work harder to ensure smooth sailing. Dave's obviously a sailor, right? And we all know that, or anybody that knows Dave certainly knows that. But we work harder to ensure smooth sailing, right? If anybody's ever been on a cruise, what do you want? You want smooth sailing. You don't want rough seas. And smooth sailing means all sorts of different things. But over time, over that 30-year period with Mainstay, you created, or Dave has created this reputation for professionalism. He's reliability, helping clients protect what matters the most, right? So it's consistent. It's a brand that works for Dave, right? Dave's in control of his brand. You know, Dave's brand, Mainstay's brand is shaped by the qualities people associate with the company, such as trust, expertise, personalized service, providing insurance solutions to protect what matters the most. If I said, describe Dave in a few words for me, right? And if Dave wasn't in the room, this is what I think a lot of you would say, maybe not quite in that order, but you'd say, yeah, you can trust Dave without a doubt. He's an expert. Oh, yeah, he's an expert in this industry. He's called on to speak on, this in panels across the country. Yeah, he provides personal hands-on service because he's the guy, right? And he provides quality insurance solutions that protect the most. Dave's in control of his brand. There we go. Right? Dave's in control of his brand. The other words that stick out is they think, when you think of Mainstay, you think of guidance, reliability, professional relationships. Right? Dave's not going to deal with idiots. He's going to deal with good people that recognize his expertise and recognize his advice. So
Have you
why
ever
branding
felt
matter?
have you
Sorry,
ever felt like you're sitting through your own obituary?
Dave.
Thanks for that.
Thanks, but we don't want you to die, so please no. But why branding matters. So when we look at Nike and we look at Mainstay Insurance and looking at those two brands, strong brands generate trust. Both are strong brands, very different markets. One's worldwide, one's the GTA, right? And but strong brands, what do they do? They generate trust. They reduce price sensitivity. Again, people stand in line to buy an Apple product that is way more expensive than buying a Dell computer online. Yeah, Dell computer will be delivered to your house the next day and it'll have some of the things that you want in it. But you know what? An Apple computer, people will pay more and they stand in line for. Dave doesn't talk about price when he sells, at least that's what he says in his meetings. But because he's got this strong brand, it's not about price. It's about smooth sailing, right? It increases referrals. A strong brand increases referrals, right? Dave, talk quickly. And again, we haven't rehearsed this at all. You didn't know about this
I
until
have no
just a
idea
few
what you're
moments
about
ago.
to say,
But,
honestly.
but talk about referrals. Talk.
I
You've told me this in the past about how
the,
people move from
the
company to company and bring you along,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, the last cold call I made was probably over 20 years ago. I get referrals mainly from HR people, some accounting and bookkeeping people and stuff as well. But HR people that move from company to company invite me back in to solve their problems or clean up their situations. So I've been very lucky to have them
Be-
chase me down rather than the other way around.
Because of trust, because of your brand, because of a whole bunch of things. It's easy. Again, it's not a strong brand is not about making it easier to sell your product. It makes it easier for people to buy your product. Subtle difference. So in the insurance industry, there's a challenge or an opportunity. I like to say challenge opportunity, right? There's a challenge or an opportunity, but a lot of consumers, when they see insurance and think about insurance, they see complex, they see confusing, they see commoditization, they see transactional. That's what they see. I think a strong branding changes the conversation from what's your price to why should I work with you? What's your price to why should I work with you? And in the benefit space, and you think about branding, you think about Marsh. Uh, you think about William Mercer, for example, and Marsh, and some of the largest consulting firms in Canada, the world for that matter. And I saw one of them on advertising on an F1 race, right? But they're not talking about price. They're talking about why should I work with you, right? So in our industry, especially with 1 to 100 employees, everybody talks about price all the time. I never talk about price, right? I shouldn't say never. Rarely talk about price, right? It's about why should we work with you? Why should we work with you? Having the cost of having no brand, again, you got no brand, people don't know who you are or why they should buy from you, etc. First of all, you compete on price, way lower closing ratios, weak referrals if you get any at all, inconsistent messaging, difficult prospecting. Hi, it's Rob Crowder calling. Hi, it's Rob Crowder calling from the Benefits Trust, right? Uh, it makes, people don't know who you are and you're not referable, right? The cost of having no brand, the customer, the client, the prospect is making up their mind about who you are. If you're not controlling the brand, you know, they don't know who you stand or what you stand for. They don't know who you are. What does a brand do? It reduces friction. It reduces friction. Keep that word in mind, friction. When we're selling something, we want the least amount of friction possible. So let's control our brand and let's get that friction off the table, right? And it's you don't want friction between you and the buyer, right? A brand is going to reduce that friction for the first 6 steps of the buying process, right? So what's your brand? Well, it's interesting, and your brand is never done. You may have a great brand. Apple's brand is never done, but they're constantly working on it, and they're constantly working to make sure that they're consistent with their brand. So you think you got a brand and then you're done? No, you're constantly working on your brand. But the first step when I think developing a brand or looking at a brand or reviewing your brand is who do you serve? Who do you serve? What industries? What company size? What demographics? What challenges do they have? The more specific you are, the bigger the opportunity is. Who's your ideal client? Your brand must be coordinated and align with that. Like I said in Dave's brand on his website, Mainstay Insurance, and there's a picture from Lake Ontario looking at Toronto, right? It's not looking at Vancouver. It's not, an overview of Calgary or Halifax or St. John's, Newfoundland. It's Toronto, right? So his brand is consistent with businesses doing business in the GTA, right? So the more specific you are, right, the bigger the opportunity. So again, when we're looking at geographic, that's part of it. Dave, Toronto, Nike, worldwide, right? So think about that when you're talking about your brand and thinking about your brand. Understand your client's pains. Can't speak this morning. Understand your client's pain points to build your brand. What keeps your clients awake at night? What keeps your ideal clients awake at night? What risk do they have? What concerns them? What financial pressures exist? I don't know what a successful entrepreneur that doesn't stay awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Everybody stays awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Every business owner does because they're thinking about things. Their mind starts racing about things. They're worried about things, no matter if they're, successful or not, right? But branding, brand around solving your clients' problems, I think is critical. Clearly explain how you're going to help them. Example again, and I'm coming back to Dave, Mainstay. We work harder to ensure smooth sailing. Even if you're not a sailor, which I am not, but I'm a relatively smart person, I believe, right? I understand what smooth sailing is. We work harder to ensure smooth sailing. That's part of Dave's brand. Yeah, he's a big, tall guy and he's a sailor. He's got a beard and probably drinks rum, right? But actually, he does because I have drank rum with Dave. Dave, jump in here. You wanted to say
I was
something?
just gonna say one thing. I love that my phrase because obviously I came up with it almost 30 years ago. But where I kind of stole the idea from was double-edged meanings to phrases. And my favorite one was the old, I don't know if they still use it or not. There's two. Trimark Mutual Funds used to have the phrase, we managed to outperform. And so it means two things. It means we manage plans so that they outperform the competition, but it's also we happen to outperform. Like it just kind of it was
Yeah.
good. And the other one is Canadian Blood Services, and they don't use it so much anymore, but it's in you to give, meaning
Yeah.
both the blood's in your body, but it's your thing
It's
that
in your heart.
yeah, it's in your heart. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that double-edged thing grabs people. It got
Yeah.
you.
But we work harder to ensure smooth sailing. Like it's a great, the client, great. So the client that's lying awake at night doesn't have to think about their benefit plan, their benefit costs, their if somebody's covered while they're traveling, etc. They don't have to think about that because they know that Dave is on their side because of his brand, and Dave works harder to ensure that the sailing is smooth. Simple as that. So you see how the brand works. It works for Dave in this case. Develop a clear value statement. A value statement defines the core principles and beliefs that guide an individual, that guide a team or an organization, right? Dave's got a team of Dave, right? He's also got people that work with him in certain areas. The guy that was running back and forth behind David just a few minutes ago was his bookkeeper, but that's part of Dave's team. And Dave wants to make sure that his books are kept up to date. I'm assuming, Dave, you want to make sure your books are kept up to date so you know where you are financially and so on, because you don't want to have to worry about that because you want to worry about your clients and their needs and to make sure that they have smooth sailing. Your business has to be run in that fashion so you can ensure the smooth sailing, right? Um, you got to develop that clear value statement because it's a foundation for decision making, shaping culture, and ensuring consistency in actions and communications, right? The brand is who you are. It's what you are, right? The brand is who you are and what you are. So you've got to have that brand consistent in all your life. And really interesting, not really interesting, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. But this morning, just first thing this morning, 8 o'clock this morning, I dropped off my car at a shop. I've never dealt with this shop before, but I found this guy's ads really interesting on Instagram. It ended up being right around the corner from my house, and I bought I bought a detailing service from him because my car, it was an absolute mess because we had construction done here and so on and in and out. And anyways, I wanted to treat myself and get my car detailed. So I took it over to this guy this morning and I met with him, and he's a one-man shop, right? And it's, PJ's Automotive. And his value statement was, we guarantee showroom, what was it? We guarantee showroom condition, right? In the texting messages that I went back and forth with him, he was talking about, you'll love it. It's going to be showroom condition. He used showroom condition a number of times, and it's on his little sign on his shop. And I pulled into his shop, and he opened up the doors to his shop so I could drive the car in, and his shop was immaculate. Right? His shop was immaculate. And I'm saying this because it's consistent with his brand, showroom condition. His shop was like a showroom. It was showroom condition. Think about it. You're going to go to a place to get your car cleaned, detailed, deep cleaning, whatever you want to call it, right? And the place is a mess. Is that consistent? That's going to leave an uneasy feeling. Not only that, his shop was at his house and his lawn was immaculate. The trees were trimmed, the grass was cut, it was watered, it was fertilized, it was lush. Like his whole world was about showroom. He lives in a showroom, showroom condition. So, you got to develop that clear state. We guarantee showroom condition. Will it be showroom condition? I don't have any idea, but it's certainly, I'm excited at 6 o'clock when I pick it up today. I'm really excited for this, right? But the clear value statement is about, that ensuring that that culture that you have in your life and consistency in actions and communications. Clarity, make it simple, direct, and easy to understand. We work harder to ensure smooth sailing. Simple, direct, easy to understand. Authentic, authenticity, genuine and reflective of true values. Yeah, Dave works hard to ensure that you've got smooth sailing, right? Relevance, applicable to both internal and external stakeholders, right? Absolutely. Action oriented, inspires behavior and decision making. Hey, you want smooth sailing? I suggest, because there's been a change in the marketplace or a change with company XYZ, and their underwriting philosophy has changed or whatever it is. I suggest, Mr. Client, that we move from ABC Insurance Company to XYZ Insurance Company so we can continue to ensure that smooth sailing. We're going to help you with this transition, but we want smooth sailing. We want you to have smooth seas. I'm not confident that ABC Insurance Company is going to be able to help you with that in the future because of this change. So therefore, we are recommending a change to XYZ Insurance Company. Great. Dave, have you ever had any pushback on that? On
Uh,
recommendations?
no.
Yeah, you haven't. Why? Because you're consistent, right? You're consistent with your message, with your value statement, right? It aligns with the overall mission and goals, strategic goals of their company and also your company. A value statement explains what you do. Have you ever been to a party or anything? You've been to a party or a social event, or you meet somebody somewhere and, on an airplane or whatever, chairlift, and you ask them what they do. Hey, well, what's your business? What do you do for work? And, just a regular conversation. And I'm the vice president of Western Canada's distribution of left-handed screw. What? Like, you're just confused. You have no idea what they've done, no idea what they do because they can't answer the question. It's confusing, right? We've been in business for 10 years. Guess what? No one cares. Even though I started off this presentation, we've been in business for, since 1994. Again, no one really cares. We have 125 employees. No one cares, right? We're one of the top advisors in Canada. That's your opinion. It's not a fact. It's what you believe. Great. Yeah, we've been recognized by other things, but if I say, hey, we're the top TPA in Canada, people are going to go, really? How do you know? Right? Hey, our clients tell us that we provide exceptional client service. That's different than we're the top in Canada, right? Clients love, uh, clients love our service-based culture. That's our opinion. It's not a fact, right? But a value statement clearly explains what it is that you do. So what do you do? If I asked you a question, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but if anybody would like to volunteer, if someone asks you a question, what do you do? How do you answer? What do you do? I sell insurance. Great. Hey, perfect. Put your headphones on. I wonder what movie's on this flight, right? What do you do? You know, be very clear with your value statement. This is really, really hard to do, to create a value statement. Dave said he created it 30 years ago, right? What's your core business capability? This answers the question, what do you do? What's the desired business outcome that you want to provide to your clients? This answers why should they engage with you? What are they going to get out of it? What are they going to get out of it? Smooth sailing. Wow. They're going to get out, hey, smooth sailing. I want smooth sailing. I don't want to have to worry about this. Smooth sailing. Yeah, I get it. What's your competitive differentiation? What is truly unique and different about you and give customers that may have other opinions about them in the marketplace? Customers look at insurance, like I said a couple of slides ago, confusing, transactional, price sensitive, etc. But all of a sudden, what gives you that competitive differentiation, right?
Can I throw one quick thing in here?
Please,
Give you a
Dave.
chance to breathe for a sec too. One of the things I see people do all the time is nothing aligns with the other thing they said. So
Yeah.
they say we're not about price, we're about quality, and then their website says it's all about price.
Yep.
Or all these things that they're doing don't align. And I think you kind of got to walk into it going, okay, whatever my brand is, whatever my tagline is, it should also align with my value statement, mission statement, whatever. And I'm not the person who sits down and spends months working on this stuff. But when I picked the mainstay name and sailing idea and everything aligns. So when you become a mainstay client, you get a welcome aboard card with a sailboat on it, and it kind of says, "Here's what we're all about. We're a central cohesive source of support and stability here for you, your firm, and your employees." Like everything's got to kind of mesh, and
Yeah.
that
It's
seems to be lost quite often.
it's got to be consistent with the brand, and that's a great point, Dave. Yeah, hey, we provide great service, and then you never call them back, or it takes them three messages before you call them back. I know I've been in meetings with advisors, and I go, "What's wrong with your current advisor?" And they go, "We never hear from him, and he never calls us back. He's always, on the golf course or whatever it is." By the way, this is again really hard to do. Be very clear with your value statement. Took
You
us
got a
years to.
you got a question from Krista. Grab it.
Oh, Krista.
Not a question, just a statement. I was going to say that applies to everything, even on a smaller scale. I remember I was hiring for a job way back when, and the number of resumes we got with people claiming to be detail oriented that were riddled with spelling mistakes. If you say this is true about you, live it.
Yeah, live it. Great point, Krista. Thanks for jumping in. I really appreciate that. Yeah, spelling mistakes. Hello. Right? Come on. This is the first impression people are going to have of you. It's crazy. But our value statement, we help successful business owners build a better benefit plan than they can get anywhere else. That's what we do. When someone asks me at a party, I was at an event on Saturday night at Bigwood Island and Lake of Bays, and someone asked, "What do you do?" I didn't say I sell insurance or I'm in the insurance business. I said, "We help successful business owners build a better benefit plan than they can get anywhere else." He goes, "Cool. How do you do that?" Well, we were
Rob,
engaged in a conversation, right? So it's much better than I sell group insurance.
Hey Rob, I think we've got a David Stein that wants to jump in here.
yeah,
David, jump
Rob,
on in.
I just want to mention, like the whole thing about price and stuff like that. Um, I don't, I don't want to be facetious or sarcastic, but at some point you're a broker. What's the concept of a broker? A broker works on behalf of clients. You don't you represent one particular insurance company, so sometimes you have to explain to people, I'm a broker. I work on behalf of you. I don't represent one client. So that sort of hopefully breaks through to them saying that you will do work on behalf of them, and the concept of price and stuff like that should go out the window because you're representing them to a number of companies, not one company. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think we're all saying the same thing in that sense. And Dave, thanks for jumping in. I appreciate that. But it's you know, to Dave's Patricia's point, we work harder to ensure smooth sailing. Well, nothing to do with price. We're going to make sure that we have the best solution for you at the best time. And should that solution at some point in the future not necessarily be the best, we're going to change it to the best, right? Just like we help successful business owners build a better benefit plan than they can get anywhere else. Well, you know what? That's going to change over time because business outlook changes, but you're going to have the best at all times. Um, so a broker, an advisor, you can use the words interchangeably. But it depends on what if your brand is, you will always be guaranteed the lowest price. Terrific. That's your brand. That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that because some buyers are looking for that. So they're looking for that. There's less friction involved. Great. I'm going to always have the cheapest price. For whatever reason, that's what they want to buy. If everyone was the same, the lines would be awfully long. If everyone was the same, the lines would be awfully long. What I'm saying is about if you create a brand and create a great brand and you're in control of your brand, you're going to be in control of your clients and your prospects and who finds you. If you don't have a brand, it's more difficult. But if your brand is, we provide the cheapest price, awesome. You're going to find the cheapest clients until somebody else comes along, right? And if your brand is to help successful business owners, not unsuccessful business owners, but successful business owners build, which is custom, a better benefit plan than they can get anywhere else, great, awesome. That's what we do, right? He works hard to provide smooth sailing, right? Nike, just do it. Buy these shoes, get off the damn couch and start walking. Yeah, you're never going to be like Michael Jordan. You're never going to do a layup like Michael Jordan used to, from the top of the circle. You're never going to be able to do that. But you know what? You're going to get there. You're going to get closer than you are right now. So just do it, right? Nike, you could buy cheaper shoes. You can buy cheaper shoes, right? It's about where you want to be in the marketplace in which you want to work, right? And it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. So what's your niche? Is it small business benefits? Is it construction companies? Is it professional services companies? Is it healthcare organizations? Is it manufacturing firms, right? You want to become a specialist in your niche. Learn their language, right? Learn their language. You've heard me say this in other sessions that we've done, but it's important to learn their language. And if their language is if their language is small business, they got a small business. You got to understand what their language is in a small business, right? If it's construction companies, yeah, you got to speak constructionese. Show up wearing steel toe boots. My son works in the construction industry. He sells blades. My youngest son, Sam, works in Vancouver and works with construction companies and more specifically works in hardware stores and so on. But he sells blades. He sells blades for a company called Diablo, and He walks around to large hardware stores essentially and lumber yards and so on, and they sell blades for saws and routers and so on. And they're a premium product, but he walks into every single, they're required, it's part of their brand. They are required to wear steel toe boots. They are required to wear long pants at all time and steel toe boots because it's respectful for the people that they're dealing with. Everybody else is wearing that. If they walked in wearing a three-piece suit and pointed shoes, they'd look like idiots, right? It's part of their brand. Diablo's brand, it's part of it. They have to wear these things. Every single day, he wears steel-toe boots, right? If your niche is professional services, understand, hey, all I want to do is deal with accounting firms. You got to understand how accounting firms work. You got to speak their language. Healthcare organizations, people want to deal with just for not-for-profits and social service agencies, manufacturing firms, whatever it is. Chris Gorey. A lot of people know Chris Gorey. I've called him out a number of times. I'm not sure if he's on this call right
I'm
now.
here, Rob.
Oh, there you are. There's Chris. I didn't. Hey, and Chris, we haven't talked about this today, but you speak Tekanese,
Yeah,
right?
I have for 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah. So tell us more about that if you could.
Sure. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a tech household. My dad started selling mainframe computers back in 1976, and after university, I went to college and learned how to code in languages called COBOL and PL1, and got my insurance career started working for a software company back in 95. So in 2004, I started hearing about this blossoming tech industry in Toronto. And first tech company I took on is still a client to this day, 22 years later. They've gone from a team of 4 to 330. And like Dave, I'm a one-person operation, 125 groups, and probably 112 are tech.
Yeah.
And I am one person, and I can still support Snapchat and some other big brands,
Yeah, but you speak Tekanese. It's part of your brand. Like
I know the difference between a front end developer, a back end developer. I know what the difference is between Ruby and Rails and Python and JavaScript and all the different languages. So I can
you
go and speak language.
you just said some things to me that I don't understand. I understand their tech, but I don't understand what they are. But if I walked into a tech meeting and the guy says, "Well, what about the back end programmers?" What do you mean?
The easiest way of thinking about it is when you log on to your bank site, and the front end developers make the page look nice, and the back end developers are the ones who, once you put in your bank
Yeah.
code, links up your accounts.
But do you think as a buyer,
Yeah.
if I'm sitting there as a buyer and I'm going, great, I'm dealing with someone who doesn't understand my business, or should I deal with them? Or here's Chris Gorey at Orchard Benefits, and should I deal with Chris because he understands, the trials and tribulations of a tech company, he understands what their roles are and how they work and yeah, I'm going to less friction, less friction. It's not about making your product easier to sell, it's making it easier for them to buy.
And how many advisors, sorry to jump in, but how many advisors totally try and wipe out their past life or personal life to be this perfect broker that they think the client wants to see? When your past life, whether it's Chris's, mine sailing, mine working in automotive industry, like all that stuff comes in. And the more it's part of you, the more clients and prospects you relate with better. It's
Yeah.
very cool.
Very cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Visual identity. You got to have a logo. It's simple. It's a symbol that represents your brand. It's a symbol. A logo is not a brand. It's a symbol that represents your brand. It helps create professional, consistent, and measurable presence. Right. Value statement clearly explains what your company believes in and how it stands for the principles and guide its operations. And the colors create an emotional association with influence and perception. You know, Consistent colors make your brand easier to recognize. If I say golden arches, what do you think of? McDonald's. I don't care if you eat there or not, but you know what I'm saying. Golden arches. What do you think of? McDonald's, right? Fonts. Fonts are really important, right? Have the right fonts. Consistency. You look at this picture here. Consistency. It's there. It's more than just your letterhead. It's your website. It's the colors that you use. They've got to be consistent all the way through everything that you use, everything that you do, whether it's your email, whether it's your email signature, whether it's your wet signature on a formal letter, if you would, on your website, on marketing material that you leave behind, presentation templates. It's got to be consistent all the way through everything that you do. So it becomes frictionless, right? It becomes frictionless. Everybody's, oh, this is, wow, this is consistent. This is good. This is great. The branded templates makes every interaction feel like it comes from the same professional organization, right? Again, it eliminates that friction. I think it's important to do a digital presence audit on yourself, right? Prospects, and because prospects, it's interesting. Prospects research using multiple mediums. Um, they're using Google search, they're using chat, GPT, they're using AI, they're using all sorts of different things. But all of a sudden, if they see a consistent message all the way through, we get people that call us from time to time and they go, where did you hear from us? I searched three different places and your name kept on coming up, right? Um, so it's important to have a consistent visual identity and messaging across all channels, whether it be your website and Google profile, LinkedIn, social media, blog posts, printed assets, email address. Oh my God, do not use Gmail. Rob, talk about this for a second. Rob Jr.
Yeah, 100%. For a business email, it's really easy to go onto Gmail or whatever provider you want. It takes a few minutes and I think a very nominal amount of money and put your company name as your at. It just legitimizes you. It shows that you've taken the time to put your name in there and be in business. It's just really easy, really helpful. And it's a first impression thing and a last impression thing. It's what people see when you email them. And if they see at gmail.com, they might think, oh, they didn't do the extra step just to add their name there. It just takes a second. It's just a really easy thing to do.
It's easy and it's important. It's part of branding. Thanks, Rob. It's a part of branding. It's a part of who you are, what your brand is. And, keep everything up to date. Ensure it's up to date. When you put your website is not done. It's never done. Your online presence is never, hey, I'm online now. I'm great. I'm done now. Hang it up. Nope. How many times have you gone onto a website and you go, hey, you're searching around on this website and hey, what's news? They got the news section and you click on news and the last thing they updated was 2001. Well, that's fantastic, right? That's irrelevant. So it's make sure that you're consistent all the way through. Personal brand versus corporate brand, right? Like it's interesting because the Benefits Trust, we've got, we're 40 employees or 38 employees, whatever it is. But, it's a personal brand as well. Anybody that's client facing forward and when you're working outside the office and working in clients' offices, you are your own brand as well. And you've got to be consistent with your brand. It's relationship driven, it's trust focused, it's individual reputation. That's got to be consistent, I think, with your corporate brand, your corporate image, your market position, your organizational promise. And it's important. The best results occur when these both align. Joel Kadeski, I know, was on the call. Joel, can you jump on for a second? Joel, is he still there? I saw him at the beginning.
I'm still here.
You're still there. Look at Joel. Looks like $1 million. He always looks like $1 million. That's part of his personal brand. That's how he feels the most comfortable, and it's consistent with their corporate brand at Steve Cohen Insurance Agency, right? And is there a day that you go out selling that you don't wear a tie?
If I'm not seeing clients on weekends, yep.
If you're not seeing clients on weekends. But Joel is a terrific guy, great producer, and provides superior client service and all these wonderful things. But he's consistent with his brand all the time. And what you see is what you get, and Joel is fantastic at that. You're a perfect example of what I'm talking about, Joel. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the comment.
So what's your personal brand? And it's interesting. And the thing that, jumps off the page to me is the very last point. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. And by the way, Dave, and by the way, Chris, and by the way, Joel, I'm going to be doing this presentation 3 more times throughout the summer, and I'm going to talk about each one of you because it's what people say about you when you're not there. So it's kind of fun that all 3 of you were here today, but that was, anyways, but it's what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? That's the most important thing. And, it's interesting because your reputation, your expertise, a relationship, and, that people associate with you as an individual. Why should I work with you? Your personal brand is built by your knowledge, communication style, values, consistency. What people say when you're not in the room. Consistency is the key. I don't know. There's something that's really bothering me. I got to share this with you. out with an insurance company representative. The insurance company representative, we do a fair amount of work with this particular company, and this relatively new person at this company was assigned to us, and we were working with them, and they were consistent with their message. They were consistent with their products, which were excellent. They're consistent with, professionalism, all that type of stuff. And then we were out in a somewhat social setting, and this particular individual and I were out in a social setting, and it got weird. It got very, very weird. And so much so that it made me feel uncomfortable and made others around us feel uncomfortable. And that's the only detail I'm going to go into. But it really changed. I'm going, this was not consistent with their brand. This was not consistent. And we were out and we were having fun. And then it got weird and it was uncomfortable. And so it's important that you are consistent with your brand regardless of where you are, right? And if your brand is not who you are, then there's an opportunity for error. Like it's the old expression, and I'm probably going out on a bit of a stretch here, but if you Raymond Soroka, an old friend of mine said, and he unfortunately passed away, but he said, if you never tell a lie, you never have to remember what you said. And if your brand is not consistent with who you are, right, you're acting, and you're going to have a problem in the future because all of a sudden it's going to go off the rails because you do something stupid, like happened in this case. The client experience is branding in action. The client experience is branding in action. Build your brand through authority. Be active in industry, speaking engagement, trade association partnerships, media presentations, industry awards, professional designations, all these things. Build your brand through authority. I was at an event Monday night. What day is today? Tuesday? Is today Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday. Yeah, I was at an event last night where I was an auctioneer for a charity event, but there was 100 business owners in a room, or more than that, in Rosso, Ontario, and Muskoka. There's 100 people there, or more than that actually, but the majority of them are business owners because they were there and their employees were at work, right? So I was speaking to them, right? And it was interesting. So build your brand. Your brand is work. Your brand is a lot of work. It takes constant and consistent work, but you got to build it. This is working on your business time, not in your business. This is working on your business time, and it's got to be a regular part of your overall business. You got to believe in your brand, and your brand has to be who you are, right? We work harder to ensure smooth sailing. That's who Dave is. You know that. He's a hardworking guy. Yes, he takes a lot of time off, but when he works, he's a hardworking guy, and he works with the client's best interest in mind, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. So it's working on your business. This is a lot of work, but it's important to build a brand that works because, again, it's not about selling your services. It's about people buying your service easier. It's reducing that friction, right? The values need to be consistent throughout your entire organization, whether you've got just a one-man shop like Chris, right? Or you've got employees. One of the things that we say in our business, and every single one of our employees has one of these on their desk, the easy button. We want to make it easy for people to deal with us. What's something that differentiates us that we believe in? We answer the phone. It's as simple as that. We answer the phone. You call us, someone live is going to answer the phone. We get people that call in, they go, oh my God, I wasn't expecting anyone to answer. What do I do now? Well, what's your question, sir? Right, or ma'am? Right? So it's building a brand that works for you. Because if you don't build a brand, other people are going to have an idea of what your brand is, and you might not like it. So be in control. So let me stop sharing questions, ideas, discussions, and we want to thank you very much. We got a few moments, so I got a moment to share here, but actually it's 11 o'clock now. So thank you all very much for your attendance. Mike's going to send you a note. Mike's going to send you a note with a copy of the slides if you want them. If not, take a copy of them before you throw them out. And and he's going to send you a CE credit. He's also going to send you our marketing company is going to send you a real short survey and fill it out and send it back to us. Tell us how we did today. Tell us how we can do it better tomorrow. For doing business, thank you. If we're not doing business, we are open for business and we'd love to do business with you because we help successful business owners build a better benefit plan than they get anywhere else. Simple as that. Krista, thanks for jumping in there. Dave, Chris, Joel, thank you all. And for people that put comments in there, appreciate it. And Simon, how many kilometers?
5.5.
5.5 kilometers, multitasking. I love it. Simon's here from Vancouver, and he is walking 5.5 kilometers. So by 6 weeks Thursday, he should be back in Ontario. I love it. Walking all the way. Thank you all very much. Have a great summer. Good selling. And we look forward to chatting. If you want to stick around for a few minutes, we're happy to.